everybody, welcome back to the Cupcake Jemma channel with me, Sally, and welcome to the Crumbs and Doilies Bakery here in London, directly below our brand new studio, which is actually being made today. All the stuff's been arriving, we've been sneaking little peeks inside the cardboard boxes, and everything is looking so cute. So hopefully, really hopefully, in the next few weeks, we will be actually filming in there for reals. If you want to get a little bit more kind of behind the scene action on what's going on up there, then make sure you join us over on our Bake Club. You can get there by going to patreon.com/CupcakeJemma. And if you sign up for a full year, you can get 2 months free. So why on earth would you not want to join? Anyway, that's exciting news, but today is also exciting because we're going to be making tea cakes. Now, tea cakes are, I guess they're like a tea time treat, but I think you can eat them whenever you like. They are basically marshmallow that is sitting on top of a little biscuit coated in chocolate, and they really are perfect because you get such a beautiful combination of textures going on. You get the snap of the chocolate, you get the bouncy marshmallow, and then you get that melt in the mouth shortbread biscuit, which is where we are going to start by making our shortbread. Now, I've made shortbread a couple of times on the channel before, so I'll just whiz you through it. It really is like the simplest thing. It's one of my favorite things to bake at home on my own if I just need to kind of go back to basics, take it back. I love to bake shortbread. So let's do exactly that. Now, I've got 75 grams of very softened unsalted butter here going into a bowl. Oh, she says. Very soft. And on top of that, I'm just going to add 30 grams of sugar, and then we're going to stir this until it all comes together. So very nice and simple. We're simply just bringing it together like this. And now we're going to add the rest of our ingredients, starting with 115 grams of plain flour, half a teaspoon of salt, and half a teaspoon of good quality vanilla extract. And then we're going to grab back the spoon, and again, we're just going to start to bring this together until it kind of forms clumps. So as you start to stir, it'll look really kind of dry, and what you want to do is keep stirring until all the flour sort of has disappeared and you've got this very kind of crumbly mixture, which is exactly what we want, because that's what we mean by short. Short, lovely, crumbly, it's going to melt in your mouth. Now I'm going to switch to my hands, and I start by just bringing this together, just kind of squishing it in my hands. Love to get my hands in there. And once it's all come together, we'll tip it out onto the surface. And we're going to give it a very kind of gentle knead, again, just to bring it into one ball. So you really don't want to over knead it, because the kind of less kneading you do, the crumblier and the more buttery and the kind of more melty this biscuit's going to be. Now, we don't need to chill this, we can go straight ahead. We're going to roll it out, cut it and bake it right away. So just got a little bit of plain flour that we're going to dust the surface with. And then I've got myself a rolling pin. I always like to dust it, even though these things claim to be non-stick. Just don't trust anyone. Anyway, let's start rolling. So just very gently, because this is a shortbread, it's not like pastry, it's not going to easily roll out into a nice big sheet. You just want to do it nice and gently, and it will kind of look as if it's cracking. That's fine. Just go nice and gently. So I've got this to about 4 millimeters thick, I think and hope. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. So now it is time to cut this out. So first of all, I've got myself a baking tray here lined with greaseproof paper, and I've also got my cookie cutter. Now, you can make your tea cakes whatever size you like. I'm going to be using this snazzy mould, the silicone mould here, so that they all come out really beautiful and even. But you know, that's just me. If you don't have one of these or you don't want to buy one, that is totally fine. I'm going to show you how to do it without using one of these at all, in which case you can use any kind of biscuit size. If you are using one of these, you want to choose a cutter that fits inside your mould like this, because we want it to sit inside so it seals up really nice and beautifully. Right, let's get cutting. So, dust the cutter in a little bit of flour and just very carefully chomp out your cookies. I would always use a little palette knife to get these off the surface, because they are delicate, because they are shortbread. and we'll just fill up our baking tray. So now these are going to go straight into the oven, 170 degrees C, for about 10 minutes until they're lightly golden on top. Okie doke, next up is chocolate. Now chocolate, unfortunately, is a little bit pesky, and it's not quite as simple as just melting chocolate, turning it into a new shape and letting it set. Now I'm going to keep this brief, okay? There's a thing called tempering chocolate, and what this basically means is chocolate, when it is set, like so, has lots of cocoa butter crystals, and they're all in a very neat formation. When you heat up your chocolate to melt it, all those cocoa butter crystals come out of formation. Now, if you let the chocolate set whilst they're out of formation, you're going to get what's called untempered chocolate. And what that is like, it's kind of soft, you won't get that lovely snap to it, and you might also find that it's got those kind of white smears across it, which we call blooming. Now, what we need to do is temper the chocolate to get those cocoa butter crystals back into formation before we set it. And that is done by controlling the temperatures during the kind of melting process and also as we're setting it. Now, it's quite a lot of faff. And if you just want to melt your chocolate, pour it into a mould or coat your tea cakes with it, I am not judging you. Just go ahead. They'll still be absolutely delicious and they'll probably look perfect. And I'm going to show you like a kind of cheats version of tempering chocolate. We're going to do it in the microwave, because it's a lot easier, and I think it works just fine, you know. So in my bowl, I'm using a plastic bowl because it doesn't kind of retain the heat as much as a glass bowl does, which is quite important for this. And I've got 300 grams in total here. I've got a 54% cocoa chocolate because it's my personal fave. It's not too bitter, it's not too sweet, but you do whatever you like. We're gonna pop it in the microwave and we're gonna turn the microwave on, obviously, and we're gonna start the melting process. What we don't wanna do is leave this in there for ages until it is completely melted. We want to take out our chocolate when there are still lumps of chocolate in there. So I'm going to say it's about 2/3 to 3/4 melted, and then we're going to take it out. So you can see there are still some little lumps of chocolate in there, and what we're going to do now is we're just going to stir, and we're going to keep on stirring until those bits of chocolate have melted. Job done, people. Told you it was cheaty. I love a good cheat every now and again. And what you'll notice, if you're doing this, if you've never kind of tempered chocolate before, it's actually pretty thick. When you melt chocolate normally, right, you melt it until it's melted, and it can be quite like kind of thin, whereas this is pretty kind of thick. It's really beautiful and glossy. I've just got a bit more stirring to do and I've run out of chat, guys. Give me a second. Gemma's here, she'll give you some chat.
Sorry.
So I'm pretty happy with this. I think all the little lumps have gone. So now it is time to put it into the mould. Now, if you're not using a mould, you kind of don't want to do your chocolate yet. I should have said that earlier. Very sorry, but what we're going to do is you're going to pipe your marshmallow and then dunk it in the chocolate. So this stage will come last. But obviously, if you are using a mould, we need them to kind of set in time. So that's why we're doing those now. And I'm actually going to put this into a piping bag because, I mean, I like to keep things neat, believe it or not. But also it's going to help us see how much chocolate is going into each mould so that they're all lovely and even. So you basically just want to make sure there's the same amount of chocolate in each mould, and now we need to work fast because this chocolate is going to start setting straight away. This is how we do it. We pick up our mould and we literally just let it coat. I love doing this. Coat the sides of every single mould, and it is so satisfying to watch this happen. And it's just so much easier and neater than trying to do it with a paintbrush or a palette knife. And it looks cool too. Don't worry if some kind of comes out the edges, we can always tidy it up. And then we're gonna turn this upside down and pop it. I've got a bit of greaseproof paper on a baking tray. You put a chopping board or something like that, just because these are silicone and we don't want to get kind of like flat bums on them. Now I'm going to pop these in the fridge to set, and then we get on with making our marshmallow. Okay, so the chocolate shells are setting. Our shortbread cookies have come out of the oven. They smell absolutely delicious. No, come back here. You're not allowed them yet. We've got to make marshmallow. Now, if you didn't want to make marshmallow here, you could do this with an Italian or a Swiss meringue, but really, I think you should go that extra step and make marshmallow because it's so tasty and you really get that kind of bouncy chewiness from it as well. Now, making marshmallow is quite time sensitive and it all kind of happens at once near the end. So what you want to do is get everything prepared before we start. The first of that being our gelatin. So I've got 1 sachet of powdered gelatin here, which is 12 grams, and I'm going to pop that into a bowl. And I'm going to be adding 60 mils, which is 4 tablespoons of cold water to it. We're going to stir that together and then leave it to set. So this is going to kind of thicken and firm up, but we're going to melt it down a little bit later. Now we're going to get on with our sugar syrup. So in this little saucepan here, I've got 90 grams of glucose syrup. It's real sticky stuff. And we're going to add in 75 grams of caster sugar and another 2 tablespoons of water. And then we're going to pop this over a low to medium heat to keep it on a gentle boil, and we're going to wait for our thermometer to get to 105 degrees C. All right, so we're at 105 degrees C. Now we actually want to get to 116, but at this point we're going to get our mixer going with our melted down gelatin. So I just popped this into the microwave for a few seconds until it is a liquid form. We're going to pop that into the bowl of our stand mixer, along with another 90 grams of glucose syrup. So now we're just going to get our mixer going on a low speed, just to combine those 2 ingredients and keep them moving whilst we wait for our sugar syrup to get to 116 degrees C. Okay, so we're at 116 degrees C, and now what we're going to do is pour our syrup down the edge of our mixer bowl, making sure not to touch the whisk so it doesn't fly everywhere, and be really, really careful because this is hot sugar. And now that it's all in, we're going to turn this up to a medium speed, and we're going to keep it mixing for 5 minutes, and then it will be cool enough to turn it up to a high speed for a further 5. So now we've got this amazing, thick, sticky marshmallow. We're just going to add in about half a teaspoon of some vanilla extract, just to give it a little bit of flavour. We'll whip that through and we'll get it in a piping bag. All right, so once your marshmallow is made, we need to move pretty quickly because this is going to start setting. So I've got my chocolate moulds out of the fridge, and what we're going to do is pipe in almost to the top, but we need to make room for our biscuit. So then grab your shortbread and pop it on top. So we're just going to do that with all of our tea cakes until they're all filled. And now what we're going to do is seal them up. So I've got another 200 grams of chocolate, which I cheat tempered in exactly the same way as before, and we're just going to seal them up by piping on the tops like this. Love them. Yee! Exactly enough chocolate. Now if you want to smooth these off to make them nice and neat, you can. But remember, these are the underneath, so it doesn't really matter. So these just need to set now. You can put them in the fridge to speed it up a little bit, or leave them at room temperature because you've tempered your chocolate, so it is going to set real nice and snappy. So we just gotta wait. Sorry. was well worth the wait. Look how beautifully shiny these are. I mean, they just look like little chocolate drops, so we'd better look inside, shall we? Got it on my face at all? Did it? I did it in one. So delicious. And like I said, all the textures going on. I mean, look at this marshmallow. Like, is that not the perfect marshmallow texture? You've got the really crumbly biscuit, but it's all held together by chocolate. Oh man. And did you hear that snap from the chocolate? Because we tempered it. That's why it's shiny. I love them. They are simple, but they are so delicious. I had so much fun making these, and I know that actually these are all going to disappear in a second because I've been testing these out in the bakery and everyone's been taking them home and loving them. So I'm kind of a bit sad that I only made 12 because it probably only means I get to eat one. But never mind. Now remember that you can get your hands on a downloadable PDF of this recipe and every single recipe that we put here on YouTube over on our Bake Lab. It's got ingredients, it's got instructions, it's got photos. So come and join us over there. There's details in the description box below, all that behind the scenes action, all that stuff that's going on in the studio right now. You can catch up with us there. Keep tagging us in your photos on Instagram using #CupcakeJemma, and you can tag us as well at CupcakeJemma and at Crumbs and Doilies to see what we're all up to. Now, I believe that Dane is back next week with something which I'm probably going to pronounce wrong, but I think that he's maybe pronouncing it wrong, so I'm just going to put the blame on Dane, and it is a Nanaimo bar. Nikki's nodding at me as if that's correct. So hopefully that's what it is. Now these are really delicious and you guys are gonna love them. They're like a coconutty, chocolatey, custardy, icingy kind of tray bake, and they are absolutely delicious because he was in here the other day testing them and they just got demolished by all of us here. So he'll see you next week. Have a lovely week. I'm just gonna try and eat as many of these before these little gannets get their hands on them.